So I'm going to start off by applying an eyeshadow primer. Now this is a clear eyeshadow primer, so I mix in a little bit of my concealer, which is great because you can customize it to work with your own skin tone, but the actual primer itself is by Wet n Wild and it is amazing. Best drugstore primer I've ever used. For eyeshadows, we're going to be using the Maybelline palette. Now you don't get a lot of product in this palette, but you do get a good quality of product. So it's sort of quality over quantity. It's an amazing drugstore palette. I started off with a lighter shade and just applied this all over. Then I used the next shade up and just applied this in the crease, working a little higher. And once I applied that, I went in then with my blending brush and just softened out the edges. I then went in with the next eyeshadow and applied this a little bit lower in the crease. So in the crease and on the lid. And then I took my blending brush and just blended the two shades together. Skipping one shade and moving on to the other one, we're going to apply the darker shade on the outer edge of the eye and also into the deeper part of the crease and blend that out again. I went back in and just sharpened up around the brow area with a lighter shade from the palette. And then we're going to take the kind of pinky color and use this as a fade shade. It's actually an amazing palette. I think it would be great for a Monday makeup lesson. Then I'm going to cut the crease using a little bit of concealer and a flat concealer brush. I like to kind of squash the brush down to make sure that I get that smooth line. And once I apply it onto the lids, I then tap off the excess on the outer edge of the eye. I mixed in a little bit of highlighter with that first lighter shade and applied this over the lightened area. And then took that fade shade and went across the edges, so right where the lighter shade meets the darker shade on the outer edge. Now for eyeliner, I went in and used a little bit of brown eyeshadow just to stencil it out and then filled in the rest with my black eyeliner. If you can't ever get your eyeliner to be nice and sharp, use a little bit of concealer and go around the edges. Mascara is next, and I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with this mascara, to be honest. To brighten up the waterline, I used a light pencil, so I used a white and then I used a creamy one to go over it, and I just layered the two of them together. And one of my favorite brands for lashes from the drugstore would be Kiss. I just think they're a great brand to go to. Good price, good range, absolutely love them. Moving back onto the face now, I'm going to use the Infallible primer, and I'm just going to apply this all over my skin. Great primer from the drugstore, gives the skin a healthy glow. Now I'm going to be using a very lightweight foundation, so I'm going to pay a little bit close attention to the application of my concealer. So just apply this wherever you need to apply concealer. And this foundation is a little weird. It's sort of like a tinted moisturizer, BB cream, tint, kind of everything in one. It takes a little bit of time to get used to actually applying this, but once you do, it works out beautifully. It feels like you're not wearing anything, but you get a good amount of coverage. Before I go any further, I like to fill in my brows, and this is the best brow pencil from the drugstore ever. I went back in then with a little bit of concealer just to sharpen up around the edges of the brows, because sometimes it's not the brow work itself, but just the edges that you need to sharpen up. And then for contour, I went in with the foundation stick, and I just went for a shade one shade darker than my skin really, and just buffed that out using a dense brush, and this will keep the product where you want it to be. To set everything in place, I'm going to use my favorite drugstore powder. Now this is a foundation powder, so it's a little different. It gives you a little bit extra coverage, but I wouldn't use anything else. For highlighter, I'm using that same shade that we applied on the lid. Look at that glow. For blush, I'm going to be using this blush palette by E.L.F. with my favorite brush. I'm just going to mix up two shades and apply that across the cheeks. And keeping with E.L.F., I'm going to apply this finishing powder in a darker shade and use it kind of like a bronzer. For the lips, I'm going to use Cappuccino, of course, and then I'm going to apply a slightly lighter shade of the Maybelline primer just over the top of that to give us a little bit of definition right in the center of the lips. And that is the finished look. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Super easy. Everyone can give it a go, and I'll see you in my next one.